Pleasure, you could stay on. I am Pious Kojo Backah to our very first story. Statesman and economist Kwame Pinion believes President Akufo-Addo can still back away from legalizing the 3 new tax measures passed by Parliament, basically by not signing it. The statesman argues that they are not well thought through to resolve Ghana's economic crisis. His reaction follows industry players' protests against the tax measures and have been calling on the president not to sign the bill. Now, Guta President Dr. Joseph Obeng believes there are better ways to raise revenue rather than imposing new ones. He was part of the panel on his file.
IMF itself does not seek the destruction of businesses. The intention of IMF to salvage us from our problem. And then the efforts of IMF to relieve us from this problem will come to naught, will amount to nothing when at the end of the day businesses are destroyed. And that's why we do not adopt this, we disapprove on this tax. Because we could have adopted alternatives. And that's why we were calling for stakeholder engagement so that we will also will build consensus and then we arrive at any necessary alternative that could save the nation and also save the generality of businesses at that. And we are not asking nothing. Because IMF did not impose this type of taxes on us. It is our own bargain. And that's why if we had sat down, we could have preferred even better alternative for us to send it to IMF rather than this one that impedes against growth itself. Already, when taxes are taken from the left, the interest rate is also taken from the right. You are borrowing at the rate of 40+%. And then all these taxes are piled up on you. VAT used to be 3%. And now we are migrating into the standard rate, which will accumulate to about 22%. All other taxes. So it's not that we are not paying these taxes. Let me tell you, businesses have not performed badly. For the past couple of years, Ghana Revenue Authority have been exceeding its revenue targets. And so if they have been exceeding their revenue target and government is still in want, then government have to put its expenditure in check.
And now his colleague, president of the Association of Ghana Industries, Dr. Humphrey Enyimdake, warned that the new taxes will slow growth for the economy. He called on government to broaden its consultation on the new bills.
At any point in time, have enough money or enough revenue to satisfy all. It becomes a subject matter of priority. How do you prioritize? Same then comes to the context of what we discussed, that as we seek to secure the IMF deal, we're still waiting for the terms of the deal because of the external factors. That will also shape the trajectory of governance and the economic model we seek to build. So in this set context, AGI's concern is that if you seek to sacrifice growth using the excise duties, it makes industry uncompetitive. It leads to low growth, it leads to unemployment, it leads to informality of the economy. It leads to what? Low taxation. It opens the door for more importation. It puts more pressure on the CD. It distorts the economic formula that you seek to do what we call the structural transformation. The structural transformation will elude you by virtue of these dynamics. How do you correct it? So our biggest concern is that if growth is short change, then experts will say stagflation will come in.
Now, supporting calls for the taxes to be scrapped, statesman and economist Kwame Pinion is calling on the president not to sign it.
We have to say, look, enough is enough. The president should not sign these bills. The assumption was that when the Minister of Finance has done its work, obviously they have to have an economic model which says after the domestic debt exchange, what is the economy looking like? What is it going to be? Are we going to have depression, low economic growth for the next 3-5 years? And if so, what is going to happen to government revenue? Nobody seems to be looking at that. And then it goes to Parliament, We expect parliamentarians to consult their people, think about it, and ask questions. They obviously don't. They just pass them. So our last hope is for the president to say, thank you, Parliament, I will not sign this bill because it's not good. Look at the excise taxes. The ad valorem, it says 2 US cents. The government tells us, don't dollarize the economy. They are dollarizing it. Can you imagine if the city is unstable? Every week, manufacturers will have to adjust their prices because the city dollar rate has changed. And therefore, your excise, which is based not on cedi, but in dollars, will also change.
However, political risk analyst Dr. Tfio Champon is hoping some amendments can be done to stem the impact of the business community.
What I think can be done, right, is some tweaks or an amendment to the bill, particularly the growth and sustainability bill. So, for example, it should be possible for the companies to reclaim these taxes back for the purposes of corporate income taxation, right? That would reduce or lessen the burden in a sense, but also improve the overall business environment. But the idea of actually scrapping it, given our history and what I've shown you that this law or bill has been in some shape or form on our books for the last 22 years, I don't think it's going to be scrapped. But there's an avenue to tweak some component of it to ensure that you can, one, meet the target, but you can also get the compliance or the enforcement that you need from it.
Now, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has raised concerns over a potential wave of debt restructuring requests at a time current restructuring cases are facing costly delays. According to the Managing Director, Kristalina Georgieva, about 15% of low-income countries are already in debt distress and another 45% face high debt vulnerabilities. Speaking ahead of the IMF World Bank spring meetings, Madame Georgieva said about a quarter of emerging economies, including Ghana, are at high risk and facing default-like borrowing spreads, but need help.
I want to make a double plea on their behalf. Help them handle the burden of debt, which has made life in this country so much harder because of multiple shocks in the last years. And secondly, help ensure that the IMF continues to be in a position to support them in the years ahead. Let me start with debt. About 15% of low-income countries are in debt distress, an additional 45% are near it. About a quarter of emerging market economies are at high risk, facing default-like borrowing costs. And this has raised a legitimate concern about the potential wave of debt restructuring cases.
Now let's move on to some other stories. And the OR Foundation, an agency with the aim of helping people to escape the predominant violent socio-economic system of corporate colonialism, is calling on Western clothing companies to support African continent where their waste clothing end up as second-hand clothing for effective management of the end-of-life stage of their products. According to them, European countries must support countries like Ghana with not less than $5 billion annually for the handling of waste from second-hand clothing. Now, Liz Ricketts is the director and co-founder of the foundation.
So for us, it's about ensuring that we're fighting this continued legacy of waste colonialism where the global north buys cheap clothing, overconsumes, and then uses the continent of Africa as a trash can, to say that no, if the clothing is going to continue to come here, then money and investment should also come here to support the important work that is going on, because Continental is doing a service not only for the country of Ghana, but for the whole world.
And how much are we looking at that we can be sure that this is substantial enough to help us, you know, manage this waste we're handling?
Contamanto receives around 15 million garments a week from the global north, and about 40% of that leaves the market as waste. So that's between 5-6 million garments a week. So it's extensive. And the issue is that it's fast fashion that is causing this problem. Contamanto wasn't always having this much of a waste crisis, but the reality is that in the global north, people are buying cheaper clothes that are made fast, that are all about trends. They buy them, they wear them once, and then they get rid of them. So this is where it's unfair, and it also means that the quality of the clothes that is coming to Ghana, now the traders can no longer make enough money off of them. They buy the bale, they open it, and they find that about 40% of it is not sellable. So what are they going to do with that? So they can't sit there and go into debt further. It has to become waste, and then they can take their chances on another bale. So it's become a gambling business. It's now a hand-to-mouth business instead of something that people might want to pass down through their family as a successful
Kilograms or what? Okay, okay. So how much in monetary value are we looking at coming from this EPR that we could help us in recycling?
We're calling for brands to pay between 50 cents to $2.50 per garment. Then that fee would be distributed across 3 tiers. Tier 1 would be the collection, so that would mostly be in the global north or in Europe. Tier 2 would be sorting, which could include Contamanto. And then Tier 3 would be end of life, so that would be the reuse markets like Contamanto. So we're talking about, in terms of the proposal we've put forward, we're talking about over $5 billion being sent to receiving countries like Ghana every single year from this scheme. So it's a significant amount of funding.
Rates Ricketts is the director and co-founder of the All Foundation, speaking there. Now, the Accra Metropolitan Assembly Waste Management Manager, Engineer Solomon Noy, says the money, when agreed, will go a long way to help the city manage the waste from second-hand clothes.
The EPR scheme, the Standard Producer Responsibility, makes some money available to take care of the end of life of whatever product that you churn into the society. So we are talking about second-hand clothing. These monies that will accrue from the Standard Producer Responsibility Scheme follow up the shipping of the clothing onto our shores, to the extent that once they are waste, definitely they are choking our landfills. So yes, this money should come from the global north, because as a city authority, we use certain indicators to plan for the city. One of these indicators is the per capita waste generation per capita of any person. We know, we've conducted an analysis, we know that each person within the urban setting generates about 0.71 kilograms per person per day. So based on this, we plan on the population that we have for the infrastructure. And the infrastructure happens to be the engineered landfill. Now, after this planning is done, she mentioned that this waste, the second-hand clothing that is coming, is substandard, to the extent that a lot of textile waste are added. So it becomes an outlier. It is not part of the data or statistics, because it comes straight from the port, straight onto Katamanto. They open up their bills and they are distressed. It means we have to convey or transport this waste that is coming from the global north right onto our landfills. So now when the money comes, because we didn't produce the waste anyway, we cannot use our little meager taxes as a people to be managing or taking care of the management of textile waste for the global north.
Moving on to some other stories, Chairman of the Apiate Reconstruction Committee, Benito Wusubio, is urging contractors working on the rebuilding of the community to speed up with work before the rainy season begins. Addressing the press after visiting the site to inspect the progress of work, the Deputy Minister of Lands and Natural Resources responsible for lands and forestry said he is confident the contractors will be on schedule to complete the project.
We, as the committee, the reconstruction committee, we've been here, and what we've seen, I would say we are very, very satisfied with the outcome of the work and even the progress of the work to say that right now we can rest at ease that our timelines, we can now say that they can be met. And also the consultant who is here permanently with them, and things are going on very, very fine. We've gone around, we've inspected all the works, we've seen the road works that are coming up, the drains, and that too will say is a good job done. Also, the drainage system that they are doing down there in the stream, that too is ongoing. What we can say is that we'll still urge the contractors to hurry up with the work a bit because of the rains that are coming. Soon we'll be in the thick of the rainy season, and we have to roof most of the buildings or the structures before the rains come, so that at least that will not stall the progress of work. Whilst it's raining, even they can still be inside internally working. As for the first phase, I know we have enough funds to be able to complete the first phase. Let us get to about 80% of the work. Then we'll look at how much we've received and what is left. And then we'll look at whether it can cover a substantial percentage of the second phase. But we'll still urge Ghanaians, contributors, philanthropists, that they should still come to our aid. And we've not completed the work. Our PAT is not finished. And as such, we are calling on them to still contribute.
Now, the Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo Dampare, has indicated that transport operators with low accident rates will be rewarded at the end of every year to encourage drivers to prioritize safety during festive season. Now, the Inspector General of Police, Dr. Akufo Dampare, flanked by some police management board members, visited the STC stations to urge drivers and travelers to observe road safety rules in this Easter season. There is more in this report.
As the Easter holiday season begins, many people are traveling to other parts of the country to celebrate with family and friends. In an effort to promote road safety and encourage responsible driving habits during the season, the Ghana Police Service has indicated that transport operators with low accident rates will be rewarded at the end of every year. This is aimed at encouraging drivers to prioritize safety. The Inspector General of Police, Dr. George Akufo Dampare, has been speaking after visiting some bus terminals.
Akwa yedi tudwa ene se buses akese na moko long journey ni nyina meniminu anom ya twentwen ho.
We will start rewarding intercity buses with low accident rates at the end of every year.
Munya nkwanhia ni abom abaso.
He also advised passengers not to force drivers to speed.
Passengers for na omuba na bia omadiye omakachi ebi ompiempia matiko se mun confidie member so eni omudin komoyi and police TV so any media bebre so.
We advise passengers not to force drivers to overspeed because we only have one life. It is important to return home safely.
Meanwhile, Secretary of the New Plant Drivers Union, Kofinti, is raising concerns about the deplorable state of Ghana's roads. He hopes government fixes them.
For the roads are so small for the population that we have now. And that's caused too many accidents, too many problems. We have been talking about it for the longest, but still, nothing has been done. And I think if they're thinking about safety, then they should think about the roads. Because if the roads are not good, then there won't be any safety.
Prince Owusu and Sen's report read to you.
Now, the former Attorney General, Betty Mould Idrisu has described as disgraceful the approval of President Akufo-Addo's ministerial nominees by some minority MPs. Now, over 30 MPs from the minority side voted to endorse the ministerial appointees following the party's assurance that it was not going to approve those nominees. Betty Mould Idrisu says it's in bad taste. She's also been speaking about women empowerment and other issues of national interest.
Some of the media now, you frighten me. Some of the media. I get scared when I get interviews and then see some screaming headlines out there. That's one issue. And the second issue, really, there are some fantastic personalities that we have in the party and in the country who are young ladies. And I'm mentoring them. Myself and several others, we are mentoring them. And, you know, we do programs and things with them, showing them how to get out there. Occasionally, I'll do the rare interview so they'll see how it's done, how to manage, and so on. But I'm not a media person. I'm a poor lawyer. It's really been a blessing to my life. And I thank God that I at least had a father and a mother, of course, very strong Ashanti woman, but a father who believed in pushing the women, his daughters, to the forefront. My sisters, my siblings from his side, one was the first female director of the Institute of Adult Education, Professor Miranda Greenstreet, and the other was also a top nutritionist, one of the top who did an MSc in America in the 40s, you know, so he's always pushed his siblings, his nieces and nephews. My first cousin is Dr. and Mrs. Mary Chinwe Hesse. Her mother comes after my dad, the first female Chancellor of the University of Ghana. So our family from Jamestown, British Accra, is noted for that. We, the Ashantis, though, we are more militant. Also, in terms of family, I mean, maybe I'm more strong because I'm the eldest of 4 from my mother and father's side. And 3 brothers after me. So, you know, the Ashantis, they bring us up to be the matriarchs. And that's what I've been. So it was joyous for myself and my siblings and my children for me to reach this age. And I think we've had a wonderful time and realize that we're blessed as a family.
So, I mean, how is life after, I'm not saying that after politics, because I can't say that you're out of politics, definitely. But, I mean, out of office, you're here, you just turned 70. I mean, that feeling should be some awesome one.
It is. It's exhilarating because all of a sudden, there's such a confluence of ideas and, you know, all the things that you have done come rushing to the front. And sometimes I just caught a snippet, I think it was Joy, of a program of a program of advocacy against domestic violence.
Now you relish that the NDC should come back in 2024.
I think it's a certainty. I don't think anybody has any other thoughts than that. Really? Oh no, but the MPP know that they can never make it back. They themselves know it. You know, go and ask anybody on the street.
But they also feel that the NDC, who are the alternative, they are also not really unified. They are divided. If you look at what happened in Parliament.
What happened in Parliament was disgraceful. I don't want to say more than that. It was disgraceful. But that is in the NDC. Whether it was NDC or MPP, it was disgraceful and should never happen again.
I want to understand, why is it disgraceful?
No, I don't want to go into it right now because as a party, I don't think we have explored it enough. But I think that, I think it was a disgrace and it was an affront to those in the constituencies because I do grassroots work. When you see me, you think I'm elitist, but I'm there. I'm going to the village next week. I'm going to be in Kwabre and all over Ashanti region and they can't believe what has happened. Well, we only have 4 MPs, and we know none of them would do that.
So you feel that the MPP's desire to break the 8 is a mirage?
I don't know what to call it. But I don't think they really believe that. They're just saying it's a slogan. Like, what was it? One village, one dam, or something like that. You see, one factory, one this. I think it's just one of their slogans. They themselves know that. If you want to test the pulse of the Ghanaian public, go and sit in a taxi cab. Take any Uber and talk to the guy, which how's it going? Hey, madam. I think Ghanaians reeled from the shock. They can't believe what they are in, you know. But we've endured a lot. And I think anybody can see that we have been bitterly let down by this government. Not Ukraine or whatever it is.
That's not justification that, I mean, coronavirus rocked us, and then Russia and Ukraine.
Nobody believes that story except them. So they should go ahead in their false beliefs or misguided beliefs. It's sad, you know, that as a people, we have to go through this.
What were your expectations when President Akufo-Addo took over the reins of governance, and then you were expecting? I mean, now you sound disappointed. I don't know whether to say that you are disappointed, but you expected more, or did you believe him?
He's a personal friend. I don't want to spoil a friendship that has transcended and gone through almost 70 years. So don't let me look at the personalities. Let me just say that the governance of the country has been abominable. And I never ever thought it could get to this stage.
Your friend is leading this government.
I know. I will not say more. A friend.
Your friend you have been with for 70 good years has led us from 2017 up to date.
Into the pits. I think every Ghanaian can see that we have been misled, and it's a pity that we have to continue even for another year.
But if you look at the recent appointment of these 3 members to the commission, do you have a premonition that, I mean, there is something sinister that may happen, and that is why these people were just appointed?
Well, of course. Of course. Oh, yes.
But some people also say that, well, it's just going to the ballots. I mean, on that day, cast your ballot. That is the most important thing, and not the people that are actually the referee.
Of course it's the people. Of course it's about the people. The Constitution gives the parameters, and it didn't anticipate some of these things. One tries to be fair, at least be fair. Don't do what you are doing. Involve people who have open political biases, the same thing going on in our Supreme Courts. We're not allowed to say it, or we can't talk about it, otherwise we are, you know, targeted. All these things are unfair, and it's not a good growth for Ghana's democracy. We need to be bigger and better than that in order to move the country forward. This is not the legacy we should leave to our children.
More on the NDC, and parliamentary candidate hopeful for the NDC in the Ayawaso West Wagon, Moses Bayfie Champong, has expressed shock over the party's decision to vet only John Dumelo, who is gunning to be the party's parliamentary candidate. The party rescheduled the vetting for the constituency from Monday after some concerns had been raised about the inability of other aspirants to pay their filing fees online. Now, speaking to JoyNews, Moses Bayfie Champong described the development as unfortunate, vowing to fight until the right thing is done.
Appropriate. And it is surprising that the party, after we successfully filing our nomination forms, after making the required payments, after going through all the necessary procedures, would surprisingly make a U-turn that actor John Dumelo should be the only person to be vetted in Ayawaso West Wagon. I mean, it's surprising because just this Monday, when that was the date we were supposed to be vetted, we had a meeting with the regional chairperson of the NDC, right, of the party. And he stated that because of some issues that were popping up regarding the online filing, he had received a directive from the national chairman that Ayawaso West Wagon, the vetting should be postponed until they clarified those technicalities.
This was on Monday.
This was on Monday.
And the exercise was rescheduled, per our checks, to the next day.
No, indefinitely. It was
indefinitely.
On Monday,
okay,
so
right,
it was
on
indefinitely.
Monday. Right, okay.
So we're hoping that we will get the new dates from the party. And just for me to surprisingly hear that actor John Dumelo has been cleared
yes,
to be vetted.
What issues did the regional executives, or by extension the vetting committee, what issues did they raise with your nomination forms, for instance, as a candidate?
You see, what is shocking is that we have not even met the vetting committee yet. So the appropriate procedure will be that allow us to meet the vetting committee, and then the vetting committee will look at the issues, whether or not we were able to successfully file. If we were able to successfully file, then they will go into the merit of whether or not one even qualifies to contest. So we have not even met the vetting panel yet. And then we received a message first from the regional chairperson, and then later it was confirmed in the evening by the vetting committee that Ayawaso has been postponed. So we have not even...
Okay, so there was no meeting at all?
So there was no meeting
So this is just your meeting with the regional chairperson?
This was just a meeting with the regional
Did you allow for the regional chairperson to say, okay, well, I'm relaying the issues to the national headquarters. Once that's resolved, we'll get you feedback?
So the meeting was for the regional chairperson to convey a message to us, a message he received from him. He received from the national chairman. So he conveyed a message to us that because of the technicalities, the issues revolving the filing of nominations and other peculiar issues within Ayawaso West, they had to postpone the vetting of Ayawaso.
Well, he is confident, based on his work in the constituency, he will be given the nod by the delegates to lead the party in the constituency.
Allow the people to go through. If there are any technicalities or there are any issues, I think the appropriate body to rectify it, bring it. If there is any petition, you've not even heard me. I've not been heard on any petition whatsoever. So if there are any petitions whatsoever, you in the right thinking of the party, postponed the vetting. Meet with me. Let me know that these are the issues. Let me bring. I even filed a petition regarding the difficulties I faced. I attached all the evidence I have, what I have here. I attached everything to it. So at least meet me. Let me know that these are the issues. I mean, the most important.
But have you also tried reaching out to, of course, the national leadership of the party? I'm not sure that you're too new to this as a politician.
Yes,
a lot could happen. Have you tried speaking to some members, leading figures of the party?
I have. Sometimes you call, it won't go through or they won't pick up. So the immediate executives you have will be the constituency, the elections directorate, the region. Yes, I've made reports. Even on Monday, I was at the region. Even on Monday, I was at the region. So as it stands now, I'm not aware of any formal petition against the problems we faced or any formal petition bordering on whether or not we were able to file. To the best of my knowledge, we were able to file successfully. So the next thing we are supposed to do is to meet the vetting committee, for the vetting committee to say that, hey, we have this petition against you, we have these issues against you, you will get to hear from my side. And then at the end of the day, the vetting committee will make a decision. If I'm not okay with the vetting committee, the decision of I'm dissatisfied with it, then there's an appeal process. I follow it. If I'm still not dissatisfied with it, then I follow up with the next procedure to redress whatever issues I have. So I think that is what has to happen. I mean, I'm a party member. I respect the party rules and the procedures. I think the right thing must be done, and I will ensure that the right thing is done.
Away from politics, let's now touch on one of our headline story. And the Ghana National Gas Company says planned maintenance work on its Atuabo gas processing plant have been completed. Well, this is contained in a statement signed by the head of corporate communications, Ernest Kofi Owusu-Bempabonso. Now, the shutdown affected gas supply to some parts of the plant, as well as the power supply to parts of the country. We've got to pull up that statement from the Ghana Gas for you and update you on that. and we shall be bringing you more in that statement. And I've got to read that for you. And it says the Ghana National Gas Company wishes to announce to all stakeholders and the general public that the planned maintenance work of the Atuabo gas processing plant has been completed. The entire maintenance activities ended in the late hours of Wednesday, 5th April 2023, ahead of scheduled date of completion. We are currently at a flow rate of 90 milliliters. All right, so management of Ghana Gas wishes to thank the general public for their patience and cooperations during this period. And this is signed by Ernest Kofi Owusu-Bempabonso, Head of Corporate Communications of Ghana Gas. So that's the latest from Ghana Gas. Remember, you're still watching Joy Newsroom here with me, Pious Kojo Backah. There'll be more after this break. Hello, welcome back. As Christians remember the death of Christ, Joy News' Emefa Etiamwa Eli walks us through some of the biblical towns Jesus has ever been, not too long before he was crucified. In this first episode of the Holy Land Stories from Israel, we visit Capernaum, also known as the town of Jesus, where the synagogue in which Jesus preached the most is located, and Canaan, where he changed water into wine. There's more in this report.
Capernaum, like a number of the biblical towns Jesus once visited, is located along the Sea of Galilee. Jesus is believed to have spent most of his time preaching and teaching about himself and the kingdom of God in this town. He is also remembered for healing a lot of sick people here. Notable among them was a servant of the centurion who was bedridden. It is also called the town of Jesus because it is home to the nearest synagogue within which Jesus sat to teach his disciples, as well as the multitude who constantly followed him at the time.
Maybe this is the most antique synagogue all over the world. Why? Because it was built in the time of Jesus. That means that it was built before the temple was destroyed. So how come they built a synagogue over here if the temple will exist? And the reason is that the temple was very, very far from there. From here, okay? If you want to walk now, okay, let's say that in the past you don't have a bus, you don't have Wi-Fi, you don't have a nice hotel, okay, and you don't drive to Jerusalem. You need to walk, okay? It can take you sometimes 10 days to reach from here to Jerusalem.
There is also a myriad of remnants of ancient sort of kitchenwares, largely earthen, which are somehow still intact in the open. The current form and nature tells you the extent to which time and harsh weather conditions have dealt with them unkindly. An old house said to belong to Peter's mother-in-law is also located very close to the synagogue in Capernaum. As in all cases for most of the holy sites in Jerusalem, a magnificent temple is raised over the ruins, possibly for preservation among others. Not too far from Capernaum, I take you to Canaan, the promised land of God for his people. Remember, this is the same Canaan the Israelites spent over 40 years to locate, having left Egypt under the wicked rule of Pharaoh. It is also the town Jesus performed his first miracle, the place he changed water into wine. The full account of this miracle is found in the book of John chapter 2, 1 to 11. Here is how Mama Sani recounts it after thousands of years ago. She has 27 years experience in tour guiding.
I arrived to the church that dedicated to the first miracle of Jesus when he turned water to be a wine. A very often we drink wine, but it doesn't mean that we become drunk.
At the heart of the modern church, sited at the wedding grounds where the miracle took place, are some of the jars said to have been used by the servants commissioned by Jesus to fetch water into a bigger one from which the miraculous wine was produced. A huge glass cage has been constructed around the larger jar for protection. Just as you would have done if you were a pilgrim embarking on such a lifetime pilgrimage, several others did by making sure they said and left prayers on pieces of papers for the chief answerer of all prayers as a way of tapping into that wine miracle performed here. Back in town, there seemed to be no shop without an advert of a pure and true wine from Canaan. Of course, our trip would have been incomplete without a taste of Canaan wine, and so we did not miss that opportunity at all. Next time you find yourself in Israel, either as a pilgrim or tourist, make sure you visit Canaan, at least to taste the wine. It's divine. My name is Amofa Ewena Matiamwa Eli for Joy News, Israel.
Hello, welcome to the business side of the news. The Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana (COPEC) is projecting an increase in fuel prices for petroleum products before the end of April. Speaking to Joy Business, the Executive Secretary of the Chamber, Duncan Amoah, said even though the Chamber's projection about the prices declining marginally beginning from April materialized, this may not be sustained until the end of the month.
We would have wished this trend could be sustained or would continue because, of course, we would want to see fuel prices even tumble below 10. At the current levels of 11, 12, we still think it's high. Unfortunately, global trends are pointing to the reverse or the negative, which means that if things continue the way they are currently, you may have to rather pay more by middle of April. This can only happen with two conditions. If the international market factors continue to be bullish as they are, and then where you also have the cedi not that stable. And so times like these, we would rather want to see the Bank of Ghana be proactive. Unfortunately, you are getting every indication the Bank of Ghana intends to decelerate the dollar or the forex auction to the BDCs. We don't agree with that. If the BDCs do not get the forex cover that they need, they would then need to come back to the open market to now put pressure on your cedi and the few dollars that the system has. And then again, you would wake up and the cedi would have depreciated badly. So we would rather wish the Bank of Ghana will stay the course where they are able to offer some significant forex volumes to the importers in order that they do not always have to apply the forward, FX rates in their pricing. If the BOG doesn't take note of this and would continue to insist on doing 120 million instead of the 200 that it has been doing over the period, we are quite certain that the middle of April, early May, fuel prices may go way higher than we probably would have wished for as a country.
Now, rural farmers are expected to heave some sigh of relief this year in solving post-harvest losses and thereby attracting premiums on their farm produce. This is due to the introduction of a technology by the Maxwell Investments Group aimed at helping farmers getting market access ahead of harvesting time of their produce. Chief Executive of the group, Maxwell Ampon, told Joy Business that this new technology will make the sector attractive and reduce the risk in farming.
I don't see insurance entities giving insurance to farmers. I don't see, no, it barely happens because They don't know. And it's not their fault. There's risk involved in these things that we are trying to alleviate, but we do not want to complain. USSD is an infrastructure that is very, very easily accessible. I mean, the grandmother living in some village knows how to use mobile money very easily. So Max Bunda, what we are doing with Mineral Labs in the UK is partner to create the MIG USSD, which is going to connect the traceability, accessibility, and the trust of blockchain and Web3 to USSD, such that it brings trust into the supply chain, so that we can welcome other partners. But not MIG is not so huge. In fact, this is everything we're doing now. It's more of a call for other partners to join. Love for other financial institutions to join and say, because of the traceability of this, if the products were to be, for instance, standardized, put on a truck that has in transit insurance, the traceability of it is also done, then okay, I'm willing to give the farmer some money. I'm willing to give the farmer some insurance at this point. I'm willing to, and then we don't solve the whole problem, but we are moved an inch closer to the farm. We at MIGC ideas as open source, just like the way an open source technology would wish to see all of its ideas incorporated into other technology. We see, as we have mentioned it, and we hope that other companies and other people will just pick it up.
Now, young working males or single males are stressed for time and rarely prepare meals at home. Now, some depend on home deliveries, takeaways, and food joints to prepare a decent iftar, now the breaking of the fast. Now, they say it is a real-life struggle that must be addressed. In the following feature story, JoyNews' Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin tells us how some single men in Kumasi are making Ramadan, particularly during iftar.
I live alone, I'm not married, I do not stay with my parents. I have to make sure I come around to get something to break my fast even before I get home, because fasting for more than 16, 17 hours, it is something that is very important for me to get something eating before I get home.
Sometimes when you wake up at dawn, going out to buy even bread and egg to come and eat for the fast, it's not easy. Sometimes you may go out, some people may attack you at that night, but I think if I'm married, it will be better for me to sit home for my wife to cook. So,
single life. 30-year-old Abdul Latif Sadiq is ready to be served here at Ray's Mina restaurant as the end of today's Ramadan approaches.
I do not stay with my immediate family. My dad is an old man who cannot cook, and my mom is not around. I do have a younger sister, but she works outside the region. So it makes it very difficult for me to be able to cope, prepare myself, go home and have some dinner before I can sleep. It becomes very tiring.
Many Ramadan men who live away from their families and are stressed with time depend on takeout and home orders for breaking their fast. For some like Abdul Latif, the sheer convenience and diversity of options in dining out make cooking at home a faraway possibility.
So it will be very difficult for me to say I will have to get home, cook, eat, sleep and wake up for another day. So the best thing for me to be able to do to get myself less stressed is to come here, get something already prepared, eat before I go home. Someone like me who loves to cook, I am very good at cooking as a matter of fact, but looking at the kind of work I do, like I said, before I get home, it makes everything very, very challenging, very, very difficult to live in.
If Abdul Latif regrets anything, it is the company of his family around him. He would have undoubtedly enjoyed a more conventional Ramadan.
So as a single, as a bachelor, it's very difficult. It's very, very tiring, very, very challenging. But you can't do anything about it. You just have to go through whatever you have to go through. Unlike the married men and women, they will have some support, some kind of support from their partners, which will lessen some of their burden, which will lessen some of the hell that they'll be going through during this Ramadan festivities.
Abdul Latif's Ramadan experience is similar to that of any other single Muslim man who lives alone. 33-year-old Abdul Malik Farouk is mostly reliant on home deliveries for his evening meal.
As a bachelor, sometimes it's very, very hectic for you to come and buy food outside. Sometimes, if I'm married, I won't be coming out to buy food outside like this. So, as a bachelor, sometimes I feel so worried. Sometimes I feel so sad. I feel so ashamed for me to come out and buy food and holding it, going back home.
Both Abdul Latif and Abdul Malik rely a lot on eating out.
Some of these bachelors' dawn food or suhoor is really light. They make themselves a bowl of oats, a cup of tea, among others.
When I wake up during sahur or at dawn, the only thing I can have time to prepare is Lipton, which once in a while I combine it with dates. Yes, Lipton and dates to start my Ramadan with.
When it comes at the dawn too, I normally take coffee and bread and egg. I took the bread and egg at dawn because I don't have any option than to take that.
Until both get to bond with their families in the next Ramadan or get married as they believe it could lessen their burden, they would continue to rely on takeaways and home deliveries to break their fast. A report by Mohammed Nuruddin.
And that's how we part company. I am Pious Kojo Backah. Do enjoy the rest of our programs. For more news, you can get them on myjoyonline.com. Great for serving you.